So me and my brother wanted to fly when we were younger, so I decided I was going to make a catapult. And I did exactly that. And then when we went to throw my brother off of it, he went flying into a wall face first and got totally hurt, and I felt really bad. That's kind of a lot of my life. I have great intentions, and then it just turns into some traumatic experience with me hurting someone else. I'm Corbin Stuber, and my personal experience is about tragic events and falling, specifically on one weekend. It was the boys' weekend. Me and the cousins and the grandpa were going up to the cabin, and we were going to do boy stuff like hunting, shooting guns, walking in nature, smelling bad, etc. All that good stuff. Now, what do you think? Nothing could go wrong with a bunch of guys at a cabin. Well, that is actually incorrect. We're going to point out our first big no-no of this weekend. All of us cousins brought gigantic knives with us because we thought that was stinking awesome. And my cousin Aiden's flashing his knife around, showing me how big it is, poking trees, all that good stuff. He walks up to our playground up at our cabin, and he, being all manly and cool, just sticks his knife right in the side of it, walks around, kind of like, that's my knife right there, just in case anyone was wondering. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I walk over here, and I just put my hand on it. I'm like, I'm going to pull it out. And my cousin didn't notice that I was about to pull it out, so I grabbed and I yanked, and he was going for it at the exact same time. You know what happened? I got the handle, and he grabbed the blade, and it just sliced through his hand. And it was bleeding everywhere, and it absolutely traumatized me. I felt horrible because I had almost cut his hand off. So we quickly rushed, cleaned it up, and I'm over here like, oh my gosh, I could have just cut my cousin's hand off. And as all stories go, it did not end there. It just got even more traumatic for me over the weekend. The next day, me and my other cousin Brennan decided, let's go on a hike in the nature. So we're up there on the mountain all alone in the nature, chilling out, looking at trees, climbing on stuff, and there's this cliff up behind my cabin. And me being like 150 pound, just kidding, maybe 125 pound little kid, I'm like, this is no big deal. I can just climb up this ridge and I'll be fine. And of course I could, because I weighed less than everything that was on this little cliff area. But my older cousin, who was probably a junior or senior at the time, did not. He probably weighed closer to 200 pounds. So I climb up this thing and I say, it's perfectly fine. I do this all the time. I climb this ridge. There's no danger in climbing up it. And he believes me because why not believe a 7th grader? And he walks over to it. And he starts climbing and I'm like, oh yeah, do this, do that. And I point at this big rock and I'm like, just put your hand on that and use yourself to pull up to the top right here. And he's like, okay, that's a great idea. I'll grab it. So he grabs onto this big rock. And what I didn't know is that rock was loose. It probably weighed like 150 pounds so it could support me, but it could not support him. So he goes, he's grabbing, we're climbing. He grabs onto this rock right here and he goes to put his weight and it slips. And he just goes falling. And I'm at the top looking down. And I about have a heart attack. I see my cousin falling backwards with a rock this size flying towards his face. He lands on the ground. I'll do it for you. He falls. He lands. It bounces. I'm like out of my mind afraid. And then it hits him on the foot. And he just yells. And I have a panic attack. So I go running over down to another part that I was safe to get down the mountain. I quickly go and I run over to him. He looks up and he asks me, how did I get here? He thought I was at the top of the cliff still. I ran down the other side, and I tried to pick him up and help him down the mountain, but he weighed a lot more than me, so it didn't work. We eventually got back, and I had a little bit of time to think about it, and I was so afraid I don't even know how to comprehend it. I started crying. I think this is where some important lessons come into play. You never know when someone's time is. And I actually thought about this in the moment, and it was actually kind of freaky. You never know when someone's going to be gone. So that was one lesson. But earlier, the big takeaway is that you need to think before you act. Proverbs says, Proverbs says, wise people think before they act, but fools don't and they brag about it. So, as always, think before you act, and these traumatic experiences from when you were a kid will shape you into a better person.